Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video where we're going to talk about common bookkeeping mistakes and some ratios you should look at with your numbers. What does it actually mean to know your numbers? And to help me with today's conversation, it's my personal bookkeepers, Joey, Megan Coberly down in sunny Florida. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey,
Hey, Paul.
Paul.
Thanks
You
for
have
having us.
absolutely, you guys have transformed so many businesses and helped us know our numbers.
The more and more we're getting so excited about having picked this industry, realizing all the potential in some of those small businesses. We really have found a niche in the small businesses and helping them lay a foundation for their growth. And we've had some good success. We find that it's just who we want to focus on. Most of them are so genuine. They want a little bit more when it comes to that education about their statements. So the first thing we do is they'll pick up as a 15-minute, and I give them a call right on the dot. We talk for about 15 minutes just to see if it's a good fit. Everyone that comes from Paul is typically a good fit, unless it's just not the time for them. So from the 15-minute, we'll go to a 1-hour consultation. And in that 1-hour consultation, I get just enough business information to turn around and send them a proposal. So not really looking to learn everything about your business. That takes almost a year of being partners to really feel like I'm in the groove with that specific business. And then, we have our first meeting. The first meeting is a lot of, here's how I expense, different items. And here's what the statement's trying to tell you. And I typically pick up on the income statement first, the profit and loss. It's the one they're most familiar with. It's the one they have a tendency to not understand fully, even though it's the most popular. And so, and then each meeting thereafter is mostly organization. Like I said, that first year is really a lot of me trying to learn their business, see the flow of things as best as I can without being there. After having about 2 years under our belts, we're starting to move into some of the things I think we really initially wanted to do, which is giving them that solid foundation and that analysis. Or a lot of my customers, they'll say, can you compare me with other businesses? So we're starting to get into that realm, which we're super excited about.
And we really want to emphasize on setting themselves up for future growth, because it's a lot easier to turn around a tugboat than a barge once you get, let's say you have $1 million company that's just got all these different flaws and problems, and there's a million different things you need to change. You could fix those things early on, when you're just running one crew, and not have to deal with the headache of turning around a huge business, later down the road when you're just chasing top line.
Yeah, that's so good. And one of my favorite parts of working with you guys is our Know Your Numbers meeting. And we do that once a month. And you'll walk me through my profit and loss statement. And we started, I couldn't even name the reports we would go through. I knew what a P&L was, but I wasn't going through it with a fine comb intentionality like you guys do with me. It's like line by line by line. And if I veer off a little bit or something's a little lopsided or the ratio is off a little bit, we pause and we're like, well, why is that like that? And it helps me realize, oh man, I got to make an adjustment here or a pivot here.
Right.
And so anyway, that's very helpful for me. It's like an accountability. It's like a check-in.
Right.
And you guys know my number. I mean, you guys know what's in my checking account, and you know my information. And I think that it inspires me to try to do better rather than me just kind of, solo figuring out on my own.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it helps, we do the balance sheet, we do the profit and loss, we do the statement. Is it statement of cash flows or cash flow statement?
Yeah, either one. Yeah, you can say either way.
Okay. And so anyway, that's my favorite part is actually for an hour each month, I have to, you guys kind of intimidate me when I have a bad month. It's like, oh man, like, I'm getting my excuses ready. I had COVID or, whatever. So I had a bad month.
My car broke down.
Yeah.
You gotta step up your marketing and sales and stop being raggedy, Paul. You guys don't say that, but it really is like, I want to present to you guys like, man, you're crushing it. Great month.
Right.
It's great for me as a business owner. It keeps me accountable. So it's just not hidden in the dark how the finances are performing.
Yeah. I think that's the awesome part about the 3 statements is, getting to the analysis of it. And the monthly meetings I find I think that's what our clients like almost the most. And that is, I'm with you every month. So if I say something this month that you think, oh, that's really sensitive information, and I'm there the next month helping you again. And I'm there the next month and you're seeing my face again. So it's not like, here's a list of all the problems in your business, go fix them. It's just, here's what this month looked like. Most of the time my clients come to me and they already feel the weight of the month, and not to mention, bookkeeping is always retrospective. So they're meeting with me in April about March. So they're already well on their way to, having felt March, but, working on April. And so with that stated, the meetings have definitely been my favorite part too. So I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just kind of like we want to be your team member. We don't want to just be a bookkeeper. We want to be part of your team, your SG&A, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
What's SG&A mean?
Accounting term for you. So it's the selling, general, and administrative expensive. So on profit and loss. Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
I didn't know what else to call it.
Yeah, and we talk all the time about building a team and the importance of getting the right people on the bus. And you used a word earlier, Megan, that really made my heart happy. You said the word genuine, referring to you guys who are listening. She called you guys genuine, the Jeremiah Jennings of the world, the Jack Deckers. And there's some people that publicly share that they share you as bookkeepers as well. But I'm very careful, and some of y'all know some sour stories I have of where I've let people on my team in the past in other professions, not bookkeeping, and it wasn't the right alignment. It wasn't the right core values. Where there was a difference in our uh, character and things of that nature. And so it's just so cool. You guys are reliable. You're professional. Every single month when I go into the meetings, everything's orderly, and you guys do what you say you're going to do, and you've never missed a beat. And that's the kind of people that are listening to this show, is they're just trying to improve their business. So I'm glad that you guys are a part of my team. I'm very, very thankful.
Well, appreciate it. That's very, very important to me. What I say is what I do. And if I can't do it, I own up to why as much as I can. Be public. But yes, it's very important that we are truly helping somebody. And if, that's why I don't really throw around. We've stayed in our lane quite a bit in terms of our bookkeeping. We really have just stuck to the organization side and not come up with budgets and benchmarks and all the KPIs. And those are just, to me, those are terms for confusion for a lot of people who are starting in the business and just need to know that they're laying a solid foundation and need to educate themselves on what the financials are stating and how I think how they communicate would be another great way of stating it. And so, coming to a P&L and realizing this is not everything your bank is doing. That's not the point of a P&L, but realizing that the three different statements are all communicating different things. My husband actually has a great analogy. So I think he should go into a little bit of behind the scenes, what we're trying to teach them. Yeah. And you can relate it to your personal. Your personal has a balance sheet, an income statement, a statement of cash flows, and they communicate in a certain way.
And I think what she's trying to say is, like, we definitely find KPIs, budgeting, and benchmarking valuable, just not when you're first starting out. You kind of have to zone out all the noise and just understand the organization and how the statements work. And then we can move to that next level of analysis.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if you want me to use my example, if you look at a balance sheet, so all the statements work together. Your balance sheet is essentially your house. So all the things, let's say that all the assets that you own and all the things that you have paid off and how much equity you have is how much equity you would have in your house, or items that you have paid off per se. Your income statement is just a snapshot of, let's say, your monthly income, what you brought home personally. If you had, let's say you weren't in the landscaping industry, you were just working a normal job and you had to pay off all the expenses within your home, and whatever's left over after all that is how much we move to the cash flow statement. And with that extra money that you have left over, you can either pay down some debt, let's say in your house, invest in, let's say, stocks, or just save up some cash, or, and then you could also take that and maybe go take a trip or something, which that's totally unrelated to, paying off assets within your home or whatever. And so that would just be dust in the wind almost. If you just went on vacation, it's just going out the door. But that extra money that you have on your income statement, that is used to build your wealth. And that can be done through your balance sheet and purchasing assets that will help you generate more income on your income statement, so that you can have more cash left over to pay down debt or to invest or whatever the case is.
So keeping all their statements in their lane, but realizing how they all work together. And, some of the common bookkeeping errors we see on that P&L is, let's see, one of the main ones is no depreciation, typically no depreciation. And I think in the landscaping industry specifically, that's really important. It may be in a different industry, I find, oh, it's not a big deal, but you've got assets and equipment you're trying to keep up with and make sure they're maintained and know when to buy and when, to just work it out and pay for the repair. So depreciation, we don't see often on the books unless, there's a CPA keeping track of it and being on top of it with their bookkeeping division. A lot of times we come to it and their profit and loss has loan payments on the P&L, which loan payments should be on the balance sheet. It's basically just reducing how much you owe somebody, and therefore you own more of your assets. You own more of that mower, or you own more of that truck that you are paying down, I should say. Another thing we see a lot is the job materials or job supplies is probably a better word, because the other categories material cost. We often see job supplies inside of what are called material costs and material costs inside of job supplies. And with the way the P&L works, if you have one inside the other, you're really inflating certain margins. If I'm going to throw out accounting terms, you're inflating different ratios and you're not seeing a true reflection of what your business is doing. So just, to make that just a little bit more clear, obviously there's so much behind it, but material costs should be directly related to your service. Think of the material specifically you leave on the job, like sod, like fertilizer, like flowers. It seems a little bit more so in the landscaping industry than maybe just the lawn maintenance, but just think about the stuff you leave on the job site. It's specifically invested into that service, and you likely leave it. Let's see. You likely invoice for it. That's where I was going with that. You likely invoice for it. Whereas job supplies and small tools and equipment, those are seen as overhead. They're not really direct cost. And so they're going to go into your SG&A, like we mentioned earlier, your selling, your general administrative. And we find that if you can get that gross profit just right, then it's your SG&A. You just want to make sure you're not going overboard so that you have the cash left over at the end of the month or the end of the quarter.
I think her point is, if you don't have these things in the right buckets, then you cannot compare yourself to other companies. And that's how you can focus in on what you need to actually do as the CEO of your company. So if you're mixing up your material costs with your job supplies, you can never focus on what's called gross margin. And gross margin, when you're starting out, is it's one of the most important ratios in the landscaping industry in general. If your gross margins are bad, you're going to have a very hard time being profitable. And if your chart of accounts isn't set up right, then you won't know what your gross margin is, and you won't know that you're bleeding cash in a certain area.
So with that said, one thing we offer to our clients is a custom landscaping chart of accounts. And that is something I've worked on for the past 3 years. I've been doing the landscaping industry ever since the Jason Crow, because that Jason Crow conference came probably the week after. We just looked at each other and said, landscaping it is. We're doing landscaping. I always knew I wanted to niche, and I just looked at them and said, let's do landscaping. So, ever since Jason Crow, we've been doing it for about 2.5 years now. And so we offer a landscaping chart of accounts. After having all these meetings and being in these monthly meetings with my clients, the Know Your Number meetings, we really think it's in our best interest to offer a 9-month payment plan for our clients. And so, if you're going to be in the trenches during the winter months, so are we. And we see it as a benefit to them to be able, now it still be 12 months of payments, but a 9-month payment plan, in a sense that they can fit all their payments within 9 months, while their cash flow is a little bit better and higher as a result of obviously being in season. So that's, an awesome thing coming their way. Let's see, what else is new? We are marketing as a landscaping bookkeeper now. So looking to just put our name on it. And like we said, we're dedicated.
Say that one more time.
The landscaping bookkeeper.
All right, it's going to take me a while. I'm getting hit with all this at once. GIE Expo is now Equip Expo. And yeah, they changed their name. And I'm like, I can't get it out of my head.
I saw that yesterday, and I thought, well, that's a no name. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, Equip Expo is GIE. And so now the landscaping bookkeeper.
Bookkeeper
is Gulf Coast Bookkeeping.
It's Gulf Coast. Yeah. And I'm sure most of our URL type stuff will still be Gulf Coast.
We're still going to carry both.
Although we're moving toward the landscaping bookkeeper. Okay. So they should ring as the same thing. Gulf Coast Bookkeeping will be the landscaping bookkeeper as a forward advertising name.
and that is Joey and Megan. For you listening in the audio only, these are my bookkeepers. And what I share all the time is that, I mean, you guys have done my books for years personally. And so I think just the credibility when I say, to try you guys out, I've personally used you.
Yeah. And even, you say try us out. That's another good mention. Right now, we currently only do really one service. It's the monthly meeting with the organization piece. So the organization and the education through the monthly meeting. But we are going to but we are going to branch off after listening to our customer and seeing the need and really wanting to focus on somebody who wants to lay a good foundation and know they can grow while still remaining profitable. We've got a service coming without meetings. It will just be the organization piece. And Joey's got who would the ideal customer for that be?
Yeah, so I think it's anybody that they don't want to spend any time doing bookkeeping whatsoever. But I do think it's important, once you're pretty early on in business, it's pretty important to just go ahead and get somebody taking care of your books so that you know where you're at. And it also costs 10 times more to clean up something than it does to just go ahead and take care of it from day one or year one or whatever the case may be. But I think as the business owner, when you're first starting out, you need to be going out and getting jobs. Like that should be what you're focused on. You're just focused on your close ratio and just getting jobs, and you don't want to worry about any of the back end stuff. So we're trying to roll out a service that's affordable for the guys that are maybe under 100,000 in revenue, that can just go ahead and get organized and get ready for the next tier that we offer of education and benchmarking and things of that nature, so that and then they don't have to go back and clean up anything, and they have years of data from when they first started out that we can compare their growth rates to and whatnot. And I just think that would be really valuable for them. But I really think that we need to offer a service for the really little guy that's year one, year two, that's under 100K. So
right.
Totally. What would you guys say are some key ratios that lawn care landscaping business owners really need to be paying attention to?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, gross margin is really important. That's going to tell you basically how much you're spending in material cost and labor. And you really want to control that early on. That's going to show you how good, basically, if your route density is really bad, it's going to be showing up in the gross margin. If your gross margin is really, really low, let's say you're running 40% gross margin, you would want to shoot for something in the 50 to 60 range. And if you're not hitting in those ranges, it's going to be really hard to stay profitable as you scale your business. You can do it early on, but eventually it's going to catch up to you if you're consistently running low gross margin. Labor ratio is one that you can watch. It's within gross margin. And you want to make sure that your labor costs aren't eating you alive so that you're operating efficiently. Debt ratio. So how much debt should I take on? That's another one that we were
able to run that for one of our clients. He was blown away by just the information he got from that and knew from then on, what to focus on. So that was a fun one.
Yeah. That's one thing if you're really trying to scale fast, a lot of times these owners can get caught up in chasing jobs and needing equipment for the jobs and end up, end up 7 years down the road and their debt ratio is just, they're owing everybody,
and the machine's just sitting in the backyard.
Collecting
the weed eat around it because it's getting overgrown grass by the thing they thought they needed.
And and not only is that debt eating you alive, you could have used that cash to go towards something that would have benefited your business and had a good return on investment for it. So if you have a lot of equipment sitting around, that's opportunity cost that's hitting you there. So yeah, that's three of them that we really focus on. I think controlling route density and labor costs is super, super important to get right from the get-go, as it will catch up with you eventually.
Totally. And Joey, I wanted to ask, did you have something to say, Megan?
No, I was nodding. Agree.
I wanted to ask Joey if you could elaborate. We had a conversation off air after our monthly profit meeting last month where we were talking about owner's pay.
Oh yeah.
How there's such a confusion on the books and even what's the right way to pay ourselves, because some people aren't calculating their salary into the numbers and it's throwing everything off, and it's like you think you're doing one thing but the math is shouting a different story. So can you elaborate on this and help people and do it like for an 8th grader to understand? most people are messing this up. So
that he always states, if I can explain this to a third grader, I don't really know it. So this is your test, Joey. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's see how I can do. So this is one problem we're really trying to solve.
Yeah.
On one hand, I think it's super important to log your personal labor hours and your back office. Administrative office, so that you can get your ratios right from the start and that you're always hitting consistently within those metrics. But at the same time, it's a pain in the butt to log all that stuff. I know you're trying to get out there and put out fires half the time and just, do the basic labor that everyone, your employees are doing. But yeah, so I don't really, so basically when you start out, your draw will be on the cash flow statement.
So this is, you are not on payroll. You're not paying taxes on it. So therefore, if you are paying yourself as an owner, which some owners don't pay themselves, they don't feel like as if they have enough money to pay themselves, but a lot of them are needing to support their personal side. And so if they take money out of the business and do not pay taxes on it as a salary in some shape or form, then that is called an owner's draw, and it ends up on the cash flow statement. It doesn't end up on the profit and loss.
So what happens is it makes your income statement look super inflated because you're not accounting for your own personal labor within your income statement. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were totally out of the business and you were just collecting a check and your dividend, whatever you want to call it, then the income statement would show the bottom line would be your profitability. But if you're still working in the business, then the bottom line does not include your salary unless you're an S corp. If you're a sole proprietor, then it moves to the cash flow statement. That's what the confusion is.
Right. So in wanting an accurate P&L, which we talked about earlier with those common bookkeeping errors, it's hard it's hard to compare yourself if you have no salary to show for on your income statement for all the work you as a sole proprietor are doing in your business. And they're working hard. They work every day. They have a few back office hours to log, maybe a lot, but a lot of their time is spent with one other guy, in the truck, and those hours and the payment, you would have to pay somebody to replace you, doesn't show up on the income statement. So we're finding that that's a really, in order to compare to the other people in the industry or to the numbers we find in the industry, we're finding that most of our clients don't have that number that they pay themselves on the income statement. It goes on the cash flow statement as a result of not paying any sort of taxes on it. They're just pulling interest out of their business to pay,
their cost of living. And another thing it doesn't show is all the back office work that they're doing. So it makes your overhead costs look really low on the P&L too, when it's really not.
Right. So profit looks a little inflated when, you're not new, but just whenever you're not paying a salary to yourself.
It's mainly because you're not logging your hours. That's really what it boils down to. But at the same time, it's really annoying to have to do that. So I guess we're leaning towards that you should log your own hours and how much back office work you do, unless you just really, really don't want to do it.
Yeah. And I have a lot of clients that say, well, I'll be, I have to pay taxes on that. So you have to, at some point you're paying taxes on most of it. I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to give any sort of tax advice. But if we were to ever suggest, from the start they get on some sort of salary, we would make sure, obviously, that within the rules and the guidelines of a CPA, that it's a smart and wise move. But all that to state, it is very hard, and the profit or bottom line is inflated as a result of not seeing that, that labor on the P&L. Rather, it's on the cash flow statement as money moving out of their business.
Yeah, and everything you guys just shared is kind of from a bookkeeper's perspective, and I'll share because I've made this mistake when I started out. We're running a 3-man crew, and I'm working all day. I'm in the field, doing the edging, doing the mowing, coming home, sending out the quotes. I'm doing all of this, but because I wasn't considering my salary in that mix, I was confused with my numbers. And in addition to that, I didn't have the mentality of, okay, I need to replace Paul Jameson with this foreman that I have to hire, and I have to pay. I'm already paying me, who's going to be in the future, this foreman, this amount. And it would have been an easier transition. Well, let me say it like this, because my business was so messed up. It would have shocked me faster to realize my prices were too low, because I had to charge more in order to pay myself this. which ultimately I needed to replace myself with the
Right.
other person. And what I personally did, Megan, this is years before you guys ever met me. I worked at Carrabba's. So I had money that I was living off of, and I was reinvesting in the business, which was code for I was broke. Like I wasn't pulling. Some of y'all are laughing because you're like, I think I know what you're talking about, dude. But if you can early on be like, oh no, I'm paying myself, the owner, as the foreman or as the operator, this amount, then I think it's going to get a little stiffness in our backbone to charge more.
Right, exactly.
To faster, because I honestly couldn't have afforded to have a quality human being with a wife and kids that's capable of being a foreman. In those early years, I couldn't have even afforded to pay that person to keep them around long enough.
Right.
And so I was just doing it all myself and confusing myself, looking at my numbers like I'm doing all right, but I really wasn't calculating let's say a $60,000 or $45,000 or $55,000 salary that I really needed, that I was paying myself, that I need to be paying someone else. It was missed in the numbers,
right?
And it confused me. And I think I'm sharing my vulnerable, humble beginnings because it's so common that people don't get it. Now, the companies that are legitimate and profitable and sustainable, they get it. But a lot of the new folks, they just don't understand this. And I hope we're making sense to get us in order.
There's so much fine tuning that can be done just from educating yourself on all of this, you know? And so, and that's our ideal client. It's somebody who says, you know, first of all, with the new service, it can be anybody from 1 year to 2 year in business. If they're out getting jobs and they feel as if they're really good at that, and so the organization piece, they would love to offboard somebody, that's who we're there for. But also, you know, the one who maybe 4 years or 5 years in business and says, you know, I haven't really launched or grown like I want to, but let me make sure I can set a foundation for myself and can grow profitably and move themselves out of the business or into the position of the business they want to go as soon as they can. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've said from the beginning, I don't act as if I own a lawn care business. So your business, as you sought to do it, you know, that was the best you did at the time. But hopefully, you know, being the landscaping bookkeeper, we can provide that resource for these people to get it right. Like Joey said at the beginning, from the beginning, at least as best as they can with the time they have.
And then when you have a bigger company, you can instantly identify problems because you've been doing this for so long at that point, instead of just making it all fresh and you're starting to manage 2 and 3 crews and everything's just caving in on you and you're getting super complicated.
Yeah. We've seen a few of those. It's not fun.
Also, Paul, I think I've heard you talk about, this is kind of something I wanted to touch on. A lot of lawn care guys don't do a lot of as much marketing as they should. I've heard you speak on that before. And I wanted to talk about the importance of that a little bit because we were talking about gross margin and identifying problems within your gross margin. A lot of times it can be directly related to advertising costs because if you're not advertising to a specific group or whoever your ideal customer is, a lot of times that can show up in your route density and making your jobs more spread out because you're not identifying exactly where your customers are coming from, and it'll make your gross margins, you know, you'll be saving on some overhead costs in advertising, but it'll make your gross margins, you know,
really expand.
So you can really gain efficiency by marketing, even though it's going to cost you a little bit, you know, in the beginning. And so that's one thing that you can identify early on with your advertising costs.
Yeah. And marketing is a whole gigantic conversation because there's so many drips and there's so many streams. Well, there's, as my friend Dr. Frank says, there's all these drips that create this big stream, but you use the term a little bit. It really doesn't cost that much to do door hangers or flyers or postcards. And I just interviewed a guy,
Cody Nepper, I think. Is that,
come again?
Were you going to mention? I think it was Cody Nepper, I think.
Yeah, Cody Owen.
Cody Owen, that's it.
He does Facebook geo-targeted ads. So let's say you want to make a geo fence around a neighborhood, or you even know the name of the neighborhood, and you're like, ooh, you know, there's $600,000 homes and there's 350 of them in this home. You can blow up their Facebook in the evenings. You know, they're sitting there scrolling through Facebook, watching Al Blades or whatever they're watching. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they get hit with your geo-targeted ad. And that's, you know, very strategic. And now all of a sudden you're in that neighborhood, and you can even additionally do door hangers on top of the face, but just hit them with a touch here, hit them with a touch there. But I think it's just laziness at this point that our route density is spread out and our marketing is so raggedy. I was talking to Jarvis in Mississippi, and he's as old school as I just go and knock on their doors, and he's just a good old country boy, and he goes he knows the neighborhood he wants to work in that he's already working in. He knocks on the door and says, "Hey, I'm Jarvis, Kingdom Lawn Care, and if you ever need anything, here's my card." And some people are like, "Hey, thanks, Jarvis, I've seen you around," and some people are saying, "Get off my grass," But you brought up a good point, Joey, that I've been trumpeting, and I just like the third party validation when other people say it. Guys are not marketing.
I see it in the numbers all the time. Yep. And it shows up. It shows up directly related to their route density almost every time.
Yeah. And I get the whole, I just do such good with word of mouth. All I got to do is word of mouth. I was like, dude, that's word of mouth is the best. It is awesome when a friend says, "Hey, you should hire Paul," but that's just icing on the cake. That can't be your marketing plan. Maybe if you've been in business for 25 years, but even like Echo, I was just on the phone with one of their marketing. They make power equipment. And I was just talking to one of their marketing people the other day. I mean, they do hundreds of millions of dollars a year in revenue. Everybody knows Echo. Like even like people that aren't in the industry. Oh yeah, I know Echo, the orange company, right? And they still are very aggressive and intentional with their marketing. And you're going to tell me you have 23 customers spread out around town and you don't need marketing because you got word of mouth referral. Like you can miss me with all that.
Right. Totally agree.
We can third party, yes, validate that.
So yeah, if there was anything I was going to harp on this episode, it would be up your marketing game. Learn how we personally we've read a lot of books on marketing. It's not our favorite thing.
Yeah. We are the organization.
You have
bookkeepers.
to do it. You have to, even in lawn care, you have to do it.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you because I know you guys market on the Green Street podcast, which is you guys understand the uniqueness of this audience. I mentioned earlier, complimenting you guys listening right now, that you guys are genuine and your quality. If you're gonna listen to a podcast on how to take your business to the next level, like that's a rare breed of people. Most people are out there listening to latest trend or news or raunchy music or whatever. But my audience, I'm just thankful that you guys would push play on a show where we talk about profit and loss statements and marketing and growing a business. But
2 words, I think it's genuine and intentional. That's we're right there with your clients that listen. They're genuine, they're intentional.
Yep, and they want to improve their business. So I just wanted to say thank you to Gulf Coast Bookkeeping for partnering with us at the Green Industry Podcast. And we got a great thing going. And I know you guys vet your customers like I do, and I preach. And so if you guys want to go through the rigorous 15-minute free call, you can meet Megan and Joey, talk to them, just share a little bit about your business. And I personally went through the 15-minute call. We set up the 60-minute call. I think you saw how sloppy some of I had to pay that lump sum to get me up to pace because I just had some sloppiness, unorganization. And like I said, my previous bookkeeper she was trying her best, but she wasn't focused on lawn care like you guys. She was just helping me out as a friend, on the side. And because you guys are in this lawn care niche, you see lawn care business after lawn care business after lawn care business after lawn care business. And so it's so easy for you to recognize when something's off because you're so familiar with our businesses. I go to this gym, a little small gym. Like there's an 82-year-old guy named John. He's 82. He's in the gym. And then this guy looks like Dr. Phil. His name's Bob. He's in there working out. He's like 70. And then, there's a few people, but I know every single person. I know what car they drive. I know what they look like because it's a little small town gym. And whenever somebody comes in that I'd never known, everyone's like looking at the new person. Like, who's this? Like, this is different. And it's like, that's how you guys are. I know this is kind of a reach of an analogy, but when you're looking at a number, you can instantly be like, oh, that's off. And you can, in a most gentle way, tell us like, hey, you need to kind of consider getting on top of this area of your business. And that information is so helpful. And I didn't have that previously. So
yeah, it is. I had a 15-minute just the other day, and he stated he had given it to just somebody local, the bookkeeping to somebody local, and they did the work. They sent him a P&L and then nothing. And he just, he looked at the P&L and he's like, but what about it? What does it do? I know he knew about the P&L, but he had expected that local bookkeeper or CPA, I can't remember which one it was, to go through it with him and just to help him understand and to point out some of the common, like we said, errors, or compare him to other landscapers. And it was silent after that. So he was calling us up after having heard that we do spend individual time trying to teach it, and help them be aware of what it's trying to communicate to them and what it is communicating to them.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, do you guys have anything else we're leaving out?
I don't think so. I think we already mentioned, breaking out into the two services, one being for somebody who just needs the organization piece early on in the business, so they don't end up, needing it a little too late where they're paying too much or whatever the case may be. And then we're keeping the same, service we already have with the monthly meetings. And we are going to be adding, the comparison, the benchmarking to that core service. Like I said, we've stayed in our lane with just the organization and education, but we really want to go into a little bit of the analysis and the comparison for our customers, especially now that we've had them enough and they're starting to ask for that.
Yeah, you really can't do analysis until you have about a year's worth
at least
from what
accurate,
if you want
organization.
Accurate. Yeah. And another thing we're going to start providing is we want to set up and do profit first.
Oh yeah.
So everybody that's heard of that.
So if they've heard of it, it can be an add-on.
Yeah, as an add-on. We've used it since day one, and it works. Like, it really makes you pinch pennies and learn where your dollars are going, so that you can pay yourself for your hard work. So we can't stress profit first enough.
We do like it a lot.
Yeah. It is
I'm slowly profit first. I'm hybrid of profit first.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of our clients are, and that's a good start. It's not going to be perfect. I think some of it comes with perhaps what we can provide, and that is, the profit first will be an add-on for whoever wants to do it, and we'll help them manage it. So we'll crunch the numbers for them. We know the book, we know the steps to take, and just someone, to help keep them on track. But obviously the work, ends up back in our owners. We want you to be the CEO. We don't pretend to run a landscaping business over here. We just can hopefully identify what it might take, along with the education it would take to get you where you want to go. And that's important to us, because that's what we want to do in our small business. We just want to be in the business where we want to be in the business, and then leave the rest to other capable people.
Right. Get you where you want to go. Everybody's success looks differently. You might want to stay small. That's perfectly fine, but you still need to get your numbers in order and know your numbers. And can I do a couple of, I'm a big reader. We both are. Can I do a couple of book drops right here? These are like must reads in my opinion.
Go for it, Joey. Tell me.
If you've read Profit First, you need to go back and read Pumpkin Plan for sure. Mm-hmm. Mike Michalowicz's other book. They need to be read as a tandem. And then for marketing, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I don't know if you've read that one, but it is amazing.
On point.
Yeah, and there's like some toolboxes that you can use for free online to identify who your key client is, and then clarify your message so that your key customers will listen.
Yeah, both of those authors, both Donald Miller and Mike Michalowicz, they have so many resources to where you don't got to pay some $3,000 just to get their information. There's so many resources. Obviously, you'll be paying here and there for a book, but so much information out there with those two authors. So Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand.
And then Cut That Grass and Make That Cash by Paul Jameson.
Oh, yeah. And the other one, 101 Ways, Increase Efficiencies.
And Make More Money in Lawn Care.
Yep. There's our book.
And guys, all those are in the Audible. And so it's like with the Audible subscription, and it's in the show notes, you can get the first month for free and listen to Cut That Grass and Make That Cash, or Best Business Practices for Landscapers, or 101 Proven Ways to Increase Efficiency, Make More Money in Lawn Care. And then the next month you get another credit from Audible, and you listen to Mike Michalowicz's Profit First, which he's got a very unique personality. I tried to kind of have a little bit of that personality in my first two books, and maybe it was successful. I don't know, because by the third book, Mr. Producer's like, "Hey, why don't you let me read this next one?" I was like, "Oh, I'll take that as a compliment." I don't know, but he read the next one, which he's a professional. But then you get another credit the next month, and you can do the Story Brand book by Donald Miller, and then it will start then suggesting you may also like the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, or some of the just classic Think and Grow Rich type. I mean, there's just some there's a lot of good books out there. I mean, you could easily get 2 or 3 years under your belt, like if you just do one audio book a month, and you don't even scratch the surface of
Yep.
the
Right.
classics that are out there. And so if
Yeah.
you're not, if I know you guys are already listening to a podcast, so you already get that you can be learning while you're
You're doing-
mowing or driving or taking your kids to the. I got one guy that makes his kids listen to audiobooks. While I was like, oh man, like I don't know if that's good or bad, but thank you. You know, my kids love your audiobook, Paul. I was like, all right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Our kids can have weird stories like that.
Oh
too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, for
I
sure.
saw your kid on the mower. I joked on Instagram. I was like, you put that boy on a Toro, man.
Yeah, that was my cousin's
Raggedy
mower.
looking mower. That thing was raggedy looking.
Yeah.
It's my cousin. It's his cousin's mower.
Yeah. It's just a little Arians mower, 58.
Oh, pardon me. I didn't see that. Arians is a good company.
Okay, yeah. I had personally never heard of them.
I just never heard of them, so I figured.
They own Gravely.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah, Arians. They own Gravely.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, they emailed me the other week wanting to be on the program. So we'll see.
Awesome.
I gotta be careful what I say these days.
Our son seemed to like the mower, so we'll stick with it.
There you go. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. And the next step is just look in today's show notes, and Mr. Producer will put a link in there to Gulf Coast Bookkeeping. It's super simple. That will link you over to your guys' website, and you have a calendar there where you can then select a 15-minute time and just hop on a call with you guys and see if it's a good fit. And I can't stress enough, guys, this is who I personally use. And you guys are the best. And I know Jeremiah Jennings publicly shares that he uses you. Jack Decker probably his episode's probably already come out by the time we do this. This episode comes out, and so many others from all across the fruited plains, as my boy Rush Limbaugh said.
That's old school right there.
Yeah, you know that line. Thank you guys for changing my business and helping me know my numbers. It's a cliche that we all say, know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Exactly.
You guys unpack it, and it's not something you just get in a podcast like this. It's the repetition of month after month after month after month after month of looking at the same reports. Now I'm starting to get it and make better informed decisions as I do my pricing and fine tune my efficiencies and beef up marketing and all of that. So
yeah, it's literally the language of business.
Yeah, it is. It communicates unbiasedly. That's another great thing. So if you think, don't take too much heat for how sensitive the information is. It's meant to direct you, not beat you up.
I'll quote Ben Shapiro. It's a facts don't care about your feelings type analysis.
Thank you, Paul. We really appreciate it.